Typically on this channel, the paint corrections I'm showing you guys are typically pretty significant in terms of transformation. And as I'm sure you guys can already tell, this car is in very, very, very good condition, especially for the year. So this was already corrected at one point. The paint is now very, very thin. It wasn't necessarily because of that previous correction. It's just the nature of a car being 40 some odd years old. It has been polished probably many times in its days, each time reducing the amount of clear coat that's on the car. What you're left with is not something that's dangerous or scary per se, but it's something that it does take a little bit more education and thought to preserve longer, which is what we're gonna be doing today. So typically, pretty much out the gate, I will start with the microfiber pad and compound or wool pad. Today, we're gonna switch it up a little bit and use Rupes yellow foam with the Coach Chemie compound. The compound on the polishing pad just gives you a little bit extra bite, so we can remove some defects while equalizing the finish on the whole car. Some panels are better than others, so what I'm hoping to do is kind of level everything out so there's one solid look. There are a couple areas that I am gonna cut. The roof wasn't cut recently, and then around the windows, in the door handle, certain areas where I just wanna get that a little bit better so that, like I said, the car can have one very, very good look altogether in preparation for ceramic coating. In the last video, I said I'm not using ceramic coating because I don't wanna put it on top of imperfect paint. In this case, because the paint is so thin, applying a ceramic coating to kind of thicken up the coat that you're working with, I think is gonna be the smart choice here. And it's gonna give it a really, really solid look. So take a look at the paint, get the polisher together, and get started. right, so the car is now all corrected. Of course, it was different than I predicted. About half the car ended up being the original single stage, and then the other half was base coat clear that was repainted at some point. So the readings of thinness were not necessarily accurate, but different because of the nature of single stage paint. Most of it was still very thin in areas, especially on body lines and different areas that had been blown in adjacent the clear coat panels, which is very typical because they do body work. But we were able to be very, very light with it and improve the finish greatly. With single stage, a lot of the time, all you really do need is a light polish to really enhance the gloss, because it's not necessarily as swirled and defected as base coat clear, but it just fades. So bringing it back is fairly simple to do without being very aggressive, which is what we wanted to do here. So now we're gonna move on to the protection phase. Adding the ceramic coating in an instant like this is really more about preservation than it is protection or ease of washing. Because the paint is thin, adding a layer that's actually a solid layer of thickness is gonna be very beneficial. And a couple of the projects I'm gonna be working on this winter, I'm gonna go into more depth about really utilizing detailing products to further preserve the vehicle. Not always about getting the best finish and sometimes the most dangerous way possible, but just utilizing these products to preserve these vehicles and make them last as long as possible so people can enjoy them. Of course, in the process of that, they are going to look significantly better, but in pretty much every case, it's not going to be about looking perfect, just as good as we can get it safely, and then keeping it that way for as long as possible. So you don't have to do repaints and switch out trims because they're so faded you can't stand looking at it anymore. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So the ceramic coating I'm going to be using is a new one to me. It's by Armor Detail Supply, and I believe it's called Quartz. The coating, it is in fact called Quartz. Armor Detail Supply is I think it's a relatively new company. I started using their interior detailer on my truck, really enjoyed it. Saw their Ghost tire sealant, started using that recently. You saw it in the Porsche video, the 911 video if you were watching. Really liked that. Now I'm kind of just on this mission to try a bunch of their different products because they have a pretty complete line. The guys seem great. Everyone enjoys the products that I talk to. A lot of detailer friends. I like the branding. I even like the bottles, which is a surprise for detailing products. So that's what I'm gonna do. This is a single layer coating. We're gonna apply it like any other coating. I'll give you my thoughts after application.